The Inferno Within: How One Arson Has Ignited the Soul of Port Charles. In the perpetually tumultuous city of Port Charles, peace is a fragile commodity, a fleeting whisper between storms. For a moment, a semblance of calm had settled, but as Friday's events on General Hospital are set to reveal, that tranquility was merely the deep breath before a devastating plunge. A single act of violence, the arson at Charlie's pub, was initially framed as a senseless tragedy, perhaps a mob-related warning or the act of an anonymous vendetta. However, the revelation of the true identity behind the flames has sent an irreversible, seismic shockwave through the community, one so profound that it has obliterated the last remnants of rationality and is poised to reshape the very moral structure of the town. This was no random attack. It was a targeted, deeply personal act that has ignited an inferno not just in a building, but in the hearts and minds of everyone it touched. The Patriarch's Descent, Sonny's all-consuming rage. At the epicenter of this emotional earthquake stands Sonny Corinthos. Long known as the master of emotional suppression and calculated power, the man who prided himself on being 5 steps ahead of every enemy has descended into a state of obsessive rage unlike anything his closest confidants have ever witnessed. The fire, which nearly claimed the life of his daughter, Christina, and decimated the establishment that had come to symbolize her hard-won independence, was a deliberate act carried out by someone with intimate knowledge of the Corinthos family's vulnerabilities. What began as a father's desperate attempt to seek justice has morphed into an all-consuming fixation that is slowly unraveling his grip on reality. Sonny is no longer interested in the law, in reason, or even in strategy. The calculated mob boss has been eclipsed by the grieving, vengeful father. All that matters to him now is destruction, absolute, complete, and unapologetic destruction of the person who dared to hurt his child. This is not the first time Sonny has teetered on the edge, but this time, the stakes are different. This isn't just about his empire or his enemies, it's about blood. It's about a father pushed beyond the boundaries of grief and into the raw, primal territory of vengeance. The newly uncovered identity of the arsonist, a name that once may have held trust or at least neutrality, has detonated any illusion of control. Now, Sonny moves through Port Charles like a storm no one can predict or contain. His footsteps are heavier, his voice is lower, and his silence is more dangerous than any threat he has ever uttered. Every ally he once relied on now walks on eggshells, unsure whether they're speaking to the man they once followed or a ghost forged from fury. This transformation has created a chasm within his own family. His son, Dante Falconeri, is caught in an impossible bind. As a cop, his duty is to the law, to procedure, and to justice. But as a son, his loyalty to Sonny is a bond forged in a lifetime of complicated, yet powerful, familial ties. He sees his father skipping protocols, ignoring counsel, and bypassing the very safeguards that once protected everyone. Dante knows the man he is now following is no longer making decisions as a father or a don, but as a wounded predator, and he is haunted by the transformation happening before his very eyes. Even Michael Corinthos, the son who once idolized his father, watches from a distance, helpless as Sonny sinks deeper into obsession. He has tried to reason with him, but to no avail. The son who fought so hard to escape the family business now finds himself inextricably drawn back in, not by choice, but by the gravitational pull of his father's spiraling darkness. The victim's echo, the fracturing of Christina, and the rise of obsession. While Sonny's rage burns outward, Christina herself is caught in the quiet, devastating storm her suffering has unintentionally unleashed. Though she is recovering physically, the emotional scars run far deeper. The fire didn't just scar her body, it carved fear and uncertainty into her soul. Every time she closes her eyes, she sees the flames, she hears the screams, she feels the heat. The knowledge that the attack was meant to kill her, and not merely scare Sonny, has made her question everything: her safety, her identity, even her father's love. Because while Sonny's rage is aimed at vengeance, it has also inadvertently made Christina feel like an object of obsession rather than a daughter to be protected. His overwhelming need for revenge has begun to overshadow the reality of her trauma. In private moments, she wonders whether she's lost more than her business in that fire. Maybe she's lost her father, too, to the very darkness he always tried to shield her from. This internal conflict has also touched Sasha Gilmore. In the darkened chapel of General Hospital, her fingers tremble as they clutch the edge of the pew. The memories, the mistakes, the ghosts that had never truly left her are reawakened by the chaos engulfing the city. She feels a familiar, relentless paranoia creeping back into her chest, the feeling that someone or something is watching, waiting, hunting. This isn't the kind of fear she had known before. It's an obsession tightening its grip around her life, invading her thoughts, whispering threats she can't explain. Desperate, unsteady, and increasingly isolated, Sasha finds herself doing something she never thought she would, reaching out to Jason Morgan. Jason, the stoic enforcer, had always been a distant figure in her life, a shadow of controlled violence and calculated mercy.
But now she needs that shadow.
She needs that silence, that ruthlessness, that unspoken vow that if he took your side, you were safe. When she finds him, she can barely get the words out. "I think someone's trying to break me again," she confesses, "and I don't know who I can trust anymore." Jason, who has seen that look of terror in Carly, in Sam, and in himself, knows she isn't imagining things. Someone is coming for her, someone dangerous, and in her desperation, he sees a terrifying reflection of the city's own descent. The shifting allegiances, a new game of power. The ripple effect of the truth cannot be understated. Port Charles is unraveling. The police are under fire for failing to prevent the attack. The press has pounced, spinning wild theories about mob wars and old vendettas resurfacing. Underground figures are stirring as rivals sense weakness in Sonny's psychological unraveling, while former allies begin to wonder whether his obsession might cost them their own safety. Ava, Nina, and others close to Sonny are quietly distancing themselves, not because they don't care, but because they fear being caught in the inevitable explosion. Into this power vacuum steps Jocelyn Jacks. Once defined by her loyalty to her family and her determination to carve out an identity away from the blood-soaked legacy of Sonny Corinthos, Jocelyn has undergone a profound transformation. The moment she uncovered the truth behind the WSB's ongoing investigations, secret files connecting Sonny not only to international arms deals, but also to rogue black ops programs buried deep within the agency's classified vaults, everything shifted. It wasn't just about her stepfather anymore. This was about global manipulation, unchecked power, and a pattern of control that had silently governed her life for far too long. And in that moment, as the truth crystallized, Jocelyn felt something inside her snap, not with fear, but with clarity. She was no longer going to run from the darkness. She was going to use it. With Vaughn, a rising operative whose ambition is matched only by his disdain for corrupt authority, at her side, Jocelyn began to form an idea so dangerous, so subversive, it could shift the very balance of power within the WSB and expose Sonny in ways no legal prosecution ever could. Their alliance isn't based on romance or even trust. It's built on shared resentment, ambition, and a thirst for something bigger than revenge. Legacy. They see an opportunity not merely to punish, but to transform. But in pursuing this mission, Jocelyn began walking a fine line between justice and obsession. Every move she made tightened the noose around Sonny, and every step deeper into the shadows brought her further away from the moral compass that had once defined her. What made the shift even more shocking was how calculated she had become. She no longer spoke of Sonny with open hatred or emotional tremors. Instead, she analyzed him, his patterns, his routines, his vulnerabilities, with the cold precision of someone who had already decided his fate. Vaughn watched with a mixture of admiration and fear as the girl who had once cried over broken trust evolved into a strategist capable of rewriting the rules of engagement. The weight of a lie, a son's identity shattered. While the city braces for the next wave of fallout, another, more intimate truth has come to light, threatening to rewrite the history of an entire family. Rocco Falconeri, a young man raised in the shadow of the Corinthos and Quatermain legacies, gripped a set of newly uncovered documents so tightly that his knuckles turned white. These weren't just papers. They were the last remaining veil over a truth that had been silently unraveling in the shadows of his life for years. Medical reports, DNA logs, sealed hospital transfer forms. Each one was a piece of a puzzle no one wanted him to solve. But he had solved it. And now, staring down at the confirmation with a mixture of horror and numb disbelief, he could no longer pretend. Lulu Spencer, the woman he had loved and called a mom for as long as he could remember, was not his biological mother. She had raised him, she had protected him, but the womb that had carried him, the body that had endured the pain of his creation and birth, belonged to someone else. And that someone, now confirmed with hard science and years of institutional silence, was Britt Westbourne. The truth was suffocating. The betrayal wasn't just about biology. It was about identity. It was about being shaped by a version of reality that had been carefully controlled, calculated, and manipulated to protect adults who didn't trust him with the truth of his own origin. The consequences were cataclysmic. Rocco wasn't just angry. He was awakening to a terrifying sense of self-awareness, one fueled by questions no one seemed willing to answer. As this revelation bled through every corner of his life, a new storm began to form, a calculated one. Rocco was no longer a child reacting to pain. He was a young man calculating how to weaponize the truth. He began organizing the evidence, annotating files, creating a timeline of deception. He didn't want comfort. He wanted control. He wanted to look Lulu, Dante, the Quatermains, and even the memory of Britt in the face and demand accountability. He was done being the confused son. He was becoming the investigator, the strategist, the judge of his own life. Conclusion: the unshakable truth and the coming storm. As Port Charles braces for the fallout, one truth remains unshakable. Jocelyn is no longer a bystander. She is the storm. And Sonny, for the first time in his life, didn't see it coming. The fire at Charlie's pub was not just a spark, it was a symbol. And now that its origin has been traced, the fire now raging inside Sonny Corinthos shows no signs of dying down. It grows, it spreads, and with every breath, it inches closer to consuming everything and everyone in its path. But he is not the only one with an obsession. Rocco Falconeri, armed with a truth that shatters his past, is now consumed by it. Jocelyn Jacks, armed with secrets that could topple an agency, is now driven by them. The most dangerous enemy is the one who knows where you're weakest, and Jocelyn knew every crack in Sonny's armor. And so, the lines have blurred. What began as a reaction to pain has now become a revolution. Jocelyn is no longer trying to escape the legacy of Sonny Corinthos. She is determined to dismantle it. And with Vaughn, she has found both a weapon and a mirror, a reflection of everything she might become if she lets herself slip too far. The plan is working, but the cost is rising. One wrong move could expose them both, not just to Sonny's wrath, but to the WSB's lethal disciplinary methods. Still, neither will back down. They have already seen too much, sacrificed too much, and the idea of walking away is now unbearable. The fear that once paralyzed them has become their weapon. And with Jason at her side, Sasha is no longer the woman who needed saving. She is the one preparing for war. Port Charles hasn't seen the last of Sasha Gilmore. It has only seen the beginning. Thanks for watching this videos. Please hit the subscribe button for more updated news.